Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today we're going to Masechtas Rosh Hashana Daf Ches. We are going to begin on Ches Amud Aleph, about 5 lines from the top by the 2 dots. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon, Oimrim, Bech B'Tishrei. So there's a machlokus whether or not the Rosh Hashana is on the 1st of Tishrei or the 1st of El regarding these animals. So in this, the Gemara attempts to answer the reason for this machlokus. I'm Rabbi Yochanan, Mishnei Mikra Echad Darshu, that both of them interpret the psukim in the following way. Shenemar Lovshu Karim Hatzayin, regarding the sheep which clothe themselves, which is referring to this pasuk when animal gets pregnant, which means that the gestation period for an animal is 5 months. Va'mokim Yadfu Var, and the grain will be covered in the valleys. Yisayru Af Yashiru, and as the grain shakes, it will praise. So Rameir Savre Masle Love Shukar Matzoin. When do we find that they clothe themselves, these sheep? Bizman Shamakim Yatfu Bar. It's a time when the produce covers the earth. The Amasai Makim Yatfu Bar. And when is that? But other Misabrois, in the month of Adar, that's when these animals give birth. But other Misabros Ba'adar, V'yoldos Ba'av. So you have the month of Adar, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av. So from that point to that is the period of the gestation. Rosh Hashana Shulhan El. And therefore, the following year is going to be, for that purpose of Meiser Behema, will take place in the month of El. When do we say that the sheep clothe themselves? The time in which the ground and the grain which is there praises. So when does the ground or the grain sing Shira? In the month of Nisan, because the produce sings in Nisan, since this is when it's being harvested. Mis'abros b'Nisan v'yoldos b'Elul. Rosh Hashana Shulhan Tishrei. So again, the question just is not the gestation period, but where does it begin? Does it begin in the month of Nisan, and therefore it's pushed off to Tishrei, or do we say it starts off in Adar and therefore it's Elul? So it's just the interpretation of are we focusing more on the sheep as far as connecting it to the grain, and therefore if that's the case, that's when it actually sings Shira, when it's harvested in the month of Nisan. V'idach nami haksiv yisaru af yashiru. So that's also mashma the month of Nisan. So we're into sahu ba'afalasa dahavin b'Nisan. The late harvesting is the month of Nisan, but the early is in the month of Adar. Says Rashi, "Umisachor sekabel zachar ad Nisan of a Reuben mi'ader havi." So when it comes to the animals, they typically will become impregnated in the month of Adar. It's true that some of the late ones, just like when it comes to the ground which produces and harvests, so too these animals are going to become impregnated only in the month of Nisan. The idach nami haksiv al mokim yatfu var. Sahu becharafiyasa the asyan ma'adar. This is referring to the earlier ones that took place in the month of Adar. So Bishul Rameir K'dechsev Lav Shukar Matzayin Bizman Shal Mokim Yatfu Var. V'Ikanami Yisayru Af Yashiru. So it seems like a flaw in the pasuk. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon Imchel Meboile. Love Shukar Matzayin Bizman Yisayru Af Yashiru V'Ikanami Dal Mokim Yatfu Var. So the way that he reads it, you would think that the psukim should be not in that sequential order. Ella Omer Rabba the Kuliyam Love Shukar Matzayin. When it's referring to the sheep clothing themselves, everyone holds as Bizman Shamakim Yad Var, which is Ba'adar. That takes place when the ground is covered in the valley with all this grain. That is the month of Adar. Actually, this pasuk that we quoted really is specifically talking about the month of Adar, so therefore we can't really disagree with that. So the machlokus is based on this. Aser taser, v'shnei meiser zakas medaber. Echad meiser behema, v'echad meiser daga. So the fact that it says it in the Lashon Rabbim coming to allude to two different types of meiser. One is the meiser behema, which is what we're talking about, as well as the meiser that we separate from our grains. So Meir Savar Makash Meiser Behemel Meiser Daga. How do we make this comparison? Ma Meiser Daga. When it comes to the separation of the grains, Samach L'Gamari Surai. When do we require the separation of the meisers? It's upon the completion of its process. When it's finished being dried in the field all summer. Af Meiser Behema Samach L'Gamari Suro. So too, it's referring to the time when it's completed in its process, namely in the time that it gives birth. However, according to the other opinion, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon Sabri Makash Meiser Behema Meiser Dogan. Very simply, Ma Meiser Dogan Rosh Hashana Shel Tishrei, Ya Meiser Behema Rosh Hashana Shel Tishrei. The fact that we're comparing the two make it a simple comparison. That just like as we already established, when it comes to Maser Dagon, the Rosh Hashanah for that is Tishrei, so over here it's on Tishrei. Don't say, oh, so just like over there in the month of Tishrei, when it comes to the grains, that's when it's completed the process, because it's been in the field the entire time, and now it's completely all finished. So too when it comes to the animals, oh, its completion when it gives birth is a month before. Okay, that's true, but instead of looking at it that way, maybe makes more sense just to simply say that they both have the din that's in the month of Tishrei. Question 10. But Mike Mifki Tanakam Rab Shimon in Rosh Hashanah Meiser Behema is the first of El, the first of Tishrei. So Meiser Behema Hukish Meiser Daga, as we said. We plead Iyamrin Ma Meiser Daga in Rosh Hashanah Shelo Be'ech B'Tishrei. Hachanami Meiser Behema, which is very simple. Month of Tishrei, month of Tishrei. Oh, Diamrinan Ma Maser Daga Samach L'Gamri Surai. When it's completed, so Achanam Meiser Behema Samach L'Gamri Surai B'Hainu Be'ech Be'elul, when the gestation period ends and they give birth. Okay. Weiter. So he said in the Mishnah that on the first day of Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah for years. So my hilchas. So we're going to see there's actually three answers to this question. Omer Papa. First of all, shtaris. When it comes to writing documents, didn't we already learn that's in the month of Nisan? So let's continue the Gemara. None. Shtari chayiv hamukdamim soon. As we established already, that if you write a shtar mukdam, it's possible, because since you predate a loan document, so any transaction that took place afterwards, there's a lien on that. And if in fact the loan didn't take place until later, so there really shouldn't have been a lien on it, and therefore it's possible. However, if you do it post-dated, that's fine. So we learned in our Mishnah that on the first day of Nisan is Rosh Hashanah for kings. So what are you talking about? It says Shtaros is not the Nisan, not month of Tishrei. So Kasha, as we said over there, if we're quoting Jewish kings, then we make the new year, let's say he started just in the month of El, month of Adar rather. So the following month is already his second year. When it comes to a non-Jewish king, Malchi Umas Olam, it goes by Tishrei. Fine. El Hadi Amar Rav Chisda Lo Shtana El Malchi Yisrael V'Malchi Umas Olam Tishrei Maninan. Fine. So that's the case. Rav Chisda Mastisna Slash Minan. That's really what our Mishnah said. So he's coming to just all he's doing is quoting our Mishnah. Lo Rav Chisda Kraya Slash Minan. He's coming to explain the psukim. In other words, basically what he's trying to do, says Rashi Kinamrin Bereish Pirkin Divri Nechemia ben Chachiloi. So we saw in Daf Gimel and Beis that there was the whole discussion regarding Kairish and the like, exactly what the din is as far as should it be going by the month of Nisan, month of Tishrei. So he's elaborating upon that. Okay, so again, this is going to be question 11. Be'echa b'Tishrei Rosh Hashanah l'shanim. Well, my hilchos says the first answer is shtaros. So we have two more answers coming up. The Yibois Emer Rav Chisda Kreb Zera Mastila. The Rav Zera Omer Tekufa. It's based on the calculation of the tekufas of the season. Rabbi Lezer Hidiyomer B'Tishrei Nivra Olam. Then the month of Tishrei is when the world was created. It makes sense. Like Rosh Hashanah, we say Yom Haras Olam. So in the month of Tishrei is when the world was created. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Omer, third explanation, what does it mean? It's Rosh Hashana for Shanim. What does that mean? So third answer is Ladin, that a person is being judged. That's our Yom Hadin. We know Rosh Hashanah is a Yom Hadin. Mereshis Hashana v'ad achras Shana, Mereshis Shana Nidain, Ma'yeh b'Sayfai. So we're being judged at the beginning, what's going to be at the end. So that's obviously a very serious time. Look at Rashi. Rosh Hashanah l'Shan v'tekufas Cham l'Lavana l'Omer Shemainin l'Briyasin v'Hiluchan shel tekufas Chama v'Modas l'Lavana b'Tishrei. Which of course we know, when we count a new year, 5,700, whatever year you're watching this, or maybe you're watching 5,800, the reality is that that's calculated from the first of Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah. So again, the third answer is because of Din. So Mamayev, the Tishrei, how do we know that we're judged in the month of Tishrei? So a person blows the shofar in a month or the holiday in which things are covered, which we don't see the sun, we don't see the moon. So we don't see the moon. So Ezu Chag, as we continue to Chesed Beis, Shachodesh Mischasaboi. What is the only holiday? For example, Pesach, which is on the 15th, is a full moon. On Sukkot, 15th of Tishrei, full moon. However, Hashana is the one holiday, and Shavuos is the 6th. That's not Rosh Chodesh. It's only Rosh Hashanah that it's a time of Mischasa, where it's covered. Shachodesh Mischasa boy. So Havi Yomi is Rosh Hashanah. Uksiv ki chok Yisrael mishpat elkei Yaakov. It's a time which we're judged. Tanaban. Ki chok Yisrael mishpat elkei Yaakov. What is that? What we learn from this pasuk? Malam b'shein based in Shomayel nechnas l'din, that Hashem doesn't begin the judgment process. Elohim can kitchu based in Shomata. That's a chodesh. So we know, as we say, Mekadosh Yisrael v'Hazmanim. It's us. We're the ones that make the Yom Tov. So Hashem will not begin the process of judging until we do so. Says Rashi, Elohim can kitchu hachodesh v'achad kamer. Im kabu Yisrael schok hachodesh yehi mishpad la'kodesh baruch hu. If we're the ones that follow the law of Mekadosh the month, that's when we'll be judged. Tanya Idach, Ki Chok Yisrael, who, what does that mean? Ainly El Yisrael. I only know that the Jews are judged on Rosh Hashanah. Mumos ha'oyom anayin, Talmud Omer, Mishpat Elokei Yaakov. It's a Mishpat Elokei Yaakov. So the fact that it includes Elokei Yaakov, it's coming to say that it's a Mishpat for everyone. So why does it mention Yisrael? First of all Klal Yisrael is, and then it's Elokei Yaakov, which represents more inclusive of everyone. As we're going to see in the pasuk Shnemar regarding Shalom HaMelech, Mishpat Avdo Mishpat Amoy. So first there should be a mishpat, a judgment upon me, Shalom HaMelech, who's the king, before everyone else. So too, when it comes to the Klal Yisrael, Hashem will judge us before it judges the Umas HaOlam. So that's the reason why the pasuk says it in this way. Ki Chok Yisrael. First Hashem will judge the Jewish people, then afterwards be Mishpat Elokei Yaakov. The question is, what's the difference? You're being judged first or second? What's the difference? Or a king being judged first? So my time, boy say make a malka avroy, and we say that Kol Yisrael or Bnei Melachim Heim. So it's better that we should judge the king first, because what Hashem is going to judge everyone else. The king has to sit around and wait in the outside to be judged. That's not respectful. Before Hashem gets angry. So therefore, as we're going to see, this is also question 12. Again, either because it's not proper that he should be sitting outside, or that let the anger, before the anger comes by all the other people, so Hashem will judge them, the king first, and therefore hopefully will have a lighter sentence. The Shemitah, so Manolan, how do we know, going all the way back, this is a long time before we get to the next Mishnah. So Mishnah said, Be'echa b'Tishrei Rosh Hashanah Shanim, and also for Shmitin, Yovolos, Netiyah, V'Yirakos. Okay, so how do we know that Shemitah, the 7th year, starts on Rosh Hashanah? It's Rosh Hashanah in Tishrei. Minal Dechsev, Shana Hashnias, Shabbat Shabbasayin Yel Aretz. It says the 7th year should be a rest for the land. So the Gzer Shava, just like Rosh Hashanah is, that's for us as we're being judged, so too when it comes to the land. And therefore it rests on them. So V'ligmar Shana Shama Nisan, Dechsiv, Rishon Hu Lachem Chachi Hashana. So Danan Shana She'ein Ima Chadashim, and Shana She'ein Ima Chadashim, V'ein Danan Shana She'ein Ima Chadashim, and Shana She'ein Ima Chadashim. So we want to be more consistent. In Shmita it says Shana Shvius. When it's said by Rosh Hashana, in general it says Bereshis Hashana. It just says Shana and Shana. As opposed to when it comes to Nisan, it says Shana and Chodesh. So therefore, we'd rather connect it to the Tishrei. Well, Yovel, so we say Yovel, the 50th year, apparently begins on Rosh Hashanah, on the first of Tishrei. Yovel Becha b'Tishrei, is that true? Yovel B'Yud b'Tishrei. I thought it begins the Yovel and the freeing of the slaves, the land and the fields going back to the homes going to the original owners. That really is supposed to happen on Yom Kippur. The pasuk is prepared, but Yom Kippur shofar. They blow the shofar. So where it says Hamani Rabbi Shmuel ben Oshav Yochanan ben Broikehi, the Sanya. The pasuk says the Kidashtem Eshnas HaChamishim Shana, that we're supposed to sanctify it on the 50th year. So Matam Adolom Lefi Shenemar B'Yom Kippurim Yachol Tehei Miskadesh Al B'Yom Kippurim B'Elach. Maybe it only actually starts on Yom Kippur. So Talmud Lemer B'Kidashtem Eshnas HaChamishim. So why does it say it this way? That it actually is already considered to be Yovel from the beginning, namely on the first day of Tishrei. The truth is, all the dinim start on Rosh Hashanah and it's now a Yovel. And therefore, once it's Rosh Hashanah, the slaves are not freed. However, they're not actually serving their masters. They eat and drink with smeichim. They're happy. They know they're going to be freed soon. They have crowns on their heads. On Yom Kippur they blow the shofar, and then they get to go free the slaves. And the fields go back to the original owners. It's very interesting. According to this pshat, it's mamish the same way that many learn the geula, the arba geulos, arba lashonal geulos. On Pesach, when we left Mitzrayim, it was actually a process of our geul. We didn't just go free completely. We were slaves. It was avodas perach, and then the avodah was not as intense, and then the avodah stopped, and then eventually we were freed. So we see over here that when it comes to also the process of Abdus L'Cherus also was a process as well, but it started on Rosh Hashanah, and therefore that's why we say Yovel is actually the first of Tishrei, Rabbanan. So how the Rabbanan who disagree and say it actually starts on Yom Kippur, they'll say Shanim Atamakadesh. It means that when you sanctify the year, the Atamakadesh Chadashim, but you do not sanctify the months. That's what it's referring to. Okay, so let's see if there's a Rashi over here. Rashi is V'Atamakadesh Shum Chodesh. So it's explained as we'll see later on that the question is if it's seen, you see the moon, you don't see the moon, whether you have to be mekadesh it, even though it's a davar pashut, what day it is. We'll see when we get to there. Tani idach yovel hi ma talmud leimer. Why is it? What are we learning out from yovel hi? Lafish never be kidash shnas chamishim. It already says we sanctify Yovel in the 50th year. Yochel, you would think, Kishem Shemis Kadesh Lechas Medchilasa, just like it becomes sanctified from the beginning. As we start Yovel a little before Yom Kippur, as on the first of Tishrei, so maybe we would think, so too, we're going to add after Yom Kippur to at the end. Kach Miskadesh Lechas B'Seifa. Deltatama. Don't be shocked by that. Shari Moisif and Mechal Kodesh. We know that again on a Yom Kippur, that's what we do. We are moisif. We have Tosefes Yom Kippur. So maybe we should do the same thing. Talmud Leimer Yovel Hi Shnas HaChamishim Ata Mekadesh Yata Mekadesh Shnas HaChamishim Achas. The 50th year is sanctified and not beyond that. We don't add to it. It's specifically the 50th year and not more than that. V'Rabbanan, as we continue to test Amud Aleph, Shnas HaChamishim Ata Moineh. As we said, in the 50th year you count. Yata Moineh Shnas Chamishim Achas. We do not count 51. What does that mean? Rafukim Rabbi Huda. Derish Nasa Chamishim Oil Lakan Lakan Kamashmulan Dolo. I'm going to stop there. What is that referring to? And we don't count Yovel as an end, and also the first year of the new Yovel, of the 7th year, because you have 7 times 7 is 49. The 50th year is Yovel. The question is, does that 50th year, is that year number 1 of the 7-year cycle, or is it completely an independent thing? So Rabbi Yehuda says Shnas Chamishim, the 50th year is Oilakan Lakan. It counts for the 50th, but also starts the first. So according to this, no, we don't count Yovel as the end and also the first year of the new 7-year cycle. No, it only is year number 50, not year number 1 as well of the year of the cycle. Okay, we're going to stop there. Again, there's a bunch of questions that we just saw. Question 13. Yovel hi shanas chamishim shana. So Mamba Pasuk Lamayit, what's it come to exclude when it says Yovel hi, this is Yovel, the mashma miyuta. What's the miyut? So either ein mosivim in a chayil seifa, we don't add on to it at the end, or the ein moinen oisa ella kishnas chamishim, it's year 50, excluding Rabbi Huda. That again we said is oil lakan ulakan. It's 4 questions on one daf, which is usually is quite unusual. So fine. Let's see TA 22. I'm imagining all these questions are the same. Ma Mokor. What is the source? She Rosh Hashana nechnasin ladin. How do we know that Rosh Hashana is when we begin judging? Be'er oifen hadrasha. Madu lo sagi b'kra the Rosh Hashana v'yad achar shana. So he says like this. Tiku b'chodesh shoyve b'chesem chagenu. You have to basically know this whole pasuk. Chag b'shon hachodesh meschasabay, which is Rosh Hashana. And then it says ki chokesh homish b'dol Yaakov. Rosh Hashana lo yadinen dekoya tishrei. From Rosh Hashana, as we said before, it would not be so clear that it actually took place in the month of Tishrei. Fine. That was TA 22. Interesting. It was actually a different question. Okay. From Rosh Hashana, V'yadachas Hashana, that itself, you would maybe think it was Tishrei. So that's why we needed the pasuk, etc., to tell us that it was actually specifically in Tishrei. TB 23. Ma nafkemi l'odin l'pota the Tanakh Rabbi v'yesh Amrim the Brisa im yesh Rosh Hashana l'schiras batim. I think we did that already. Again, the nafkemi you said Shana Zu. Question 24. Aser Taser. So this we definitely did. Shnei Meiser Sakas Medaber. Elu Hein Shnei HaMeiser. So we said as Meiser Dagan and Meiser Behemo. My Hilchasa Hukshul Hadadi. So we said whether or not when it comes to Meiser Behema, whether or not the din is, that's the TB24, that it takes place in the month of Tishrei, or does it take place in the month of Elul? Okay, so that was that. Adkan.